Hey, my name is Marta from Ignition Off-Road, and today we're going to replace these clunky old steel control arms for some nice new STI alloy ones. For more about the STI alloy control arms and the install process, stay tuned to this video. So in the strive to build my ultimate off-road Subaru, my quest has led me to another modification, and this modification is the STI alloy control arms. Now, the STI alloy control arms do give a number of benefits to the SG Forester, and the first thing you want to know is that the SG Forester comes with heavy steel control arms from factory. Now, STI from the GD series, which is your 2000 to 2006 series, they came with really nice lightweight aluminium control arms that offered lighter weight, stronger construction and additional caster. Now, one of the things that I absolutely love about these control arms is that they offer the additional caster. Now, not only is that great for handling, but also that's going to push that front wheel forward in the wheel well, which means there's less body modification I'm going to have to do to fit larger tyres. Now, this guide I'm putting together is going to be very specific to the SG Forester, and if you want to see a written version of the guide, there's a brilliant one written up by Blingstorm. I'll leave his Instagram account name below so you can find it there, and I'll leave the link to that guide in the description below. It's absolutely brilliant and definitely worth checking out. Now, a thing to mention with the STI control arms is that the early SG, so your 2003, 2004, they do not have HID headlights, and that's a really important thing because the 2005 to 2007 SG Foresters, they have the HID headlights, and they actually have a headlight automatic leveling sensor. Now, that sensor has a tab on the control arms. So for the later facelift SG Foresters, what you're going to want to do is get a specific type of STI control arm. So for the facelift SG Forester, you're going to be looking at control arms from a 2004 to 2006 WRX STI. Now, if you've got the earlier pre-facelift version, like I do myself, 2003, 2004, you can use any control arms from the range, as you don't have to worry about the addition of the tab for the sensor. So first up, I'm going to jump into the standard comparison between the SG steel control arms to the STI alloy control arms on the Forester. So before I installed the control arms, I took some measurements. So the first thing I wanted to do was find out what the weight difference was between the steel and the alloy. So for this test, I used a cheap luggage scale. You literally just clip the control arm onto the scale, hang it up, and it tells you a reading. So when I put the steel control arm on the scale, it read at 3.9 kilograms per control arm. Now, when I did this with the alloy control arm, I found it to be 3.1 kilograms. So you've got a difference of 0.8 kilograms in the control arms. Now, when you add the two STI control arms to both sides, you're going to see a weight savings of about 1.6 kilograms. So the next thing I wanted to find out was how much clearance I actually gain between the tire and the back of the fender liner. So to do that, I took a measurement before installing them and after, and these are the results. With the standard suspension setup, I found the gap between the tire and the rear of the fender was 70 millimeters. Now, when I measured this again with the STI control arms, I found that the gap was about 80 millimeters. Now, I did review the footage and realized when I measured the STI control arms, I was actually measuring from a slightly different spot. So I re-measured and I found it to be about 75 millimeters, which means there's still a 5 millimeter increase in gap, which is definitely helpful when you're trying to fit larger tires. Okay, now that we've gone through a bit of a comparison, it's time to jump into the install. So the first thing I'm going to do is glove up, and as you can see, I'm a big Mighty Car Mods fan. Now let's begin by jacking up the car. With the car securely placed on the jack stands, we can now remove the wheels. The electric rattle gun has been a fantastic addition and makes this job a breeze. With the wheel removed, the first thing to do is disconnect the sway bars. As you can see, mine are shot and will need replacing. Next, you will want to remove the bolt securing the lower ball joint. Once loosened, I used a hammer and a piece of wood to tap the ball joint out of the hub. An important factor to note is that the SG and STI have different ball joints, but both fit into the SG hub. My second-hand STI control arms came with bolt joints installed, which makes it much easier for me. Next, you want to remove the bolt holding the front control arm bushing. There's not much room and you'll probably need a breaker bar to crack the bolt loose. Once removed, you can now focus on the rear bushing bracket on the control arm. On my Forester, I had a plastic guard which I had to remove first. Now remove the bolts holding the inner rear bushing bracket. I found these to be very difficult to crack, so I had to be resourceful with a breaker bar. At this stage, the control arm should now be free to remove. If you go by the Blingstorm guide, they remove the subframe for ease of removal of the control arm, but with a bit of wiggling, you can remove the arm without the additional work. Comparing the two arms, the ball joints are different, so you will need the STI ball joints to mate with the SG Forester hub. The other thing to note is that the STI and the SG Forester rear bushing brackets are different, so you will need to swap them over. As you can see here, the bushings are the same, just the bracket is different. At this point, I remove the rear bushings and prepare to swap them over. When swapping the bushings, you will need the backing washer from the STI bushing, followed by the SG bushings components. The bushing is tapered so it will only fit on in one direction. Tighten up the bolt, but leave it loose enough that you can still move the bush on the control arm. This makes the installation process much easier. Now wiggle the control arm assembly back into position. Secure the ball joint, tapping it into place with a rubber mallet. Then tighten the bolt. Refit the bolt and secure the front inner bush. And then connect the inner rear bush bracket. Be very careful securing these bolts as the thread on the chassis can strip very easily, and I've had to repair the threads on these multiple times over the years. Finally, tighten up the inner rear bush. There's not much room, so a long-handled spanner is ideal, but I used a wrench as it was all I had. Finally, reconnect your sway bars. I'm skipping this part as mine are shot and I'm waiting for new ones to arrive in the mail. Refit your wheel, and now you can repeat this process on the other side. Thanks for following along on this install. Please go check out the Blingstorm write-up as well. I think it's absolutely brilliant and will help guide you as well if you want to see a written version. Now, another thing you might have noticed is this new hat I'm wearing. Now, this hat is actually created by my friend Pat. Now, you might have seen Pat in a few of my videos. He's been along on the border track trip and a few other trips as well. He's got a nice SH Forester with a 1.4 low range kit, and he's actually just done a 4.44 final drive conversion as well, which is pretty sweet. Anyway, he's started up a new Instagram account, Traction Research. He started doing a bit of merch, so he's brought along this hat. It's got the nice Subaru dual range sticker stamped on the front of the hat. If you do feel like you want to get the hat yourself, reach out to Traction Research on Instagram and I'm sure they'll set up a sale with you. Anyway, that's it for this video. Please make sure to check out my FanBeach account if you want to support this channel, and I'll see you all next time for the lift kit install. See ya.